All right, I think we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the CNC with Dave Gatton show. Yep, looks like we just went live. Uh, Looks like we already got a good crowd. I got about 35 or so over there in the chat. Welcome on. Uh, Should be an interesting show. And I hope you enjoy our discussion tonight. Before we get started, I want to make sure I'm sure everybody's well aware tomorrow is Veterans Day, so make sure you say Happy Veterans Day to anybody you see out and about. Um, we thank you all very much for your service, men and women, past, present, future. Thank you all very much. Um, and also, I wanted to. I think I mentioned the last couple of weeks about the third annual Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. It's going to be coming up. I'm going to try to put together an announcement video. I haven't really, if somebody hadn't been watching this show, they may not even know about it. So I'm going to try to put an announcement video or something together. And I did put down in the show description, if you click the show more thing and go all the way down to the bottom, I have the playlist from last year and the year before. And I was looking at those kind of today. And in 2016, we had 16 entries. And then we had 17 entries last year. And I was kind of disappointed because I noticed that out of those 17, 2 people have set those videos to private, so you can't view them anymore. And I don't really remember who they were. I'd have to try to figure out who's missing from the list. But anyway, if you're wanting to get some good ideas about what would be a good Christmas themed project to enter into the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge, you can check those out. All those videos I think I'm pretty sure they're under 10 minutes or less because that's part of the rules, I think. But anyway, the thing kicks off officially on Black Friday, November 23rd, and will end at 11:59 p.m. right before midnight on Christmas morning. So hope everybody's wanting to get out there in their shop and make something for that. All right. I guess I should let my my panel guys here introduce themselves. Javi, you want to say a word?
Sure. Good evening, all. My name is Javi. Javi's Wood Shop. For those of you that don't know me, I also have a little CNC show that the season 2 is back on the air on Friday nights. So if you're stuck for a project for Dave, or you're stuck for design help, by all means, I take requests.
Okay, thank you. I watched your show last night, Javi. And Mr. Michael Murray.
Good evening. My name is Michael Murray with Miter Mike's Wood Shop. You'll be found on all social media by Miter Mike's Wood Shop.
Okay, thanks for being here tonight, Mike. I'm thinking we may have another Michael join us here in a little bit. Michael Chipser may try to pop in. I think he's doing daddy duty tonight, but he'll jump in with us if he gets a chance. But anyway, I wanted to talk tonight a little bit. Of course, the title of the show here is "How Big is Too Big," and what I mean by that is, when you're making a decision to build your own CNC, or even buy one for that matter, but whatever, you're trying to get a CNC. How big is too big? And I see a lot of posts in the Facebook group, particularly the Gatton Facebook group, because as we all know, the Gatton CNC is made so that it's very easily made bigger, wider, deeper, or even smaller for that matter. So it's very easy to modify and make it a different size than what the actual plans are. But I see people all the time, talk about, well, the lead screws come 6 foot, so I'm just going to make everything, build it all around them and make that. And sometimes I just, I mean, I don't say anything most of the time because, it's your money. You bought, you bought the kit. You can do whatever you want with it, as far as I'm concerned. But sometimes I just have to shake my head when I see these guys talking about building these really big because, as somebody who's been doing CNC stuff a long time, either in my garage or my shop, or now I have CNCs both places, there's not very often that there's really a need to run something really, really big. On the rare occasion that I have needed to run something really, really big, it was way back before I even had my Gatton CNC built. And I had that old Sidewinder, and it had a cutting area of 40 by 26. So, pretty small, really. So, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about, going big. And maybe I know there's a bunch of people that are about to get their kits or have just received their kits and or may still be in the planning stages of figuring out what kind of what size they're going to do. So Michael, let me ask you, what size did you make your Gatton CNC?
I did mine 5 by 5.
5 by, now is that the footprint or
the footprint is 5 by 5? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not even thinking when I cut the extra foot off. I'm thinking maybe I could have left it and just did 6 foot long, and because the back end is going to lose was it 14 inches?
Yeah,
roughly?
13 to 14 inches, depending on what kind of router. Yeah, I mean, if you use the mount that comes with it, it's about 13 and a half inches, I think, is what you end up losing.
Yeah. So I mean, I was thinking 4 by 8, and then with the lead screw and everything, and then I was speaking to Javi and you, and you said you could tile things. So if I actually want to do something 4 by 8, I could tile it and then just put stands on either side, and then that's an easier way to lessen the footprint and still be able to do what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now that you've had it built, I mean, I know you're kind of, you've had the shoulder surgery and stuff, and it's not like you're out there probably a lot right now, but you've had it built a little while. So now that you've had it built and you've had to walk around it and that kind of thing, do you have any regrets or anything like that as far as the build size? Or are you pretty content?
Nah, the only thing I regret is not having everything cleaned before I built it. Because it's out away from where it's supposed to be by like 4 feet. So It is a little bit in my way, but luckily since I cut the lead screws off, I'm not walking into them anymore.
Yeah.
I remember those days. That was funny.
Yeah, it didn't feel good.
I was watching Milton, and the lead screw is at the perfect height.
Yeah, it didn't feel good.
It'll make you walk funny. But okay, so basically what you're saying then is you could take like a 4x4 half sheet of plywood and still clamp it and still reach everything with that.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have an issue. When I'm on that side, I reach pretty much to the middle, and then I could just go around the back end, and do the same.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and I don't want to make a bunch of people mad when they hear me say this.
Go ahead.
I would really, really wish people would really do some serious thinking about the size, other than, instead of just, oh, well, the lead screws are 6 foot, so it's going to be 6 by 6, because I've just seen too many people build them, maybe not 6 by 6, but just really good size. Yeah. And then complain later about how much shop space it takes up. And, well, I've been running it for 6 months and I've never cut anything bigger than 2 foot by 18 inches or something, you know. And I think I see that so much, and that's why I say, you know, if there's anybody out there that's fixing to build one that's 6x6, you know, you're probably not having me saying all this, but you know, I'm just trying to get you to thinking a little bit, because
absolutely.
And I don't know if you're one of these guys that, you know, is not a woodworker, that you just want to build one of these and all you want to be is a CNC guy. Well, that might be fine. But if you're like most of us, which I think the typical Gatton CNC builder is probably more than just a CNC guy, where we dabble in woodworking and have other shop tools, you really need to think about that 6x6 that you were thinking about and think, well, if I build it smaller, that would give me room for another, you know, sanding station or something, you know, something else you can use. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just think people make the mistake of having big dreams. They're going to get a CNC. They're going to build it as big as they can, and they're going to get rich renting stuff because now they can fill up the bed. And most of the time, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There's an example right there. Jerry Brown just said, "I did a 5x5. Wish I had gone deeper. A true 48x48 is not an everyday need, but I could live with a 12x20." And I've, you know, I've seen Jerry post the stuff. He makes a lot of stuff for the craft shows and stuff he goes to. And it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but it's usually the smaller stuff. There's another comment. Becca Miller, I seldom need anything bigger than my machine, but I do wish it would cut 2 feet wide. The old Sidewinder only cuts about 21 inches. Well, see, she hadn't got the newer one built yet. But yeah, so I don't know. Javi, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I know you built the Colossus.
Right. I started with a 24x36 machine. And for all intents and purposes, it is 99% of the stuff that I cut is probably under 12 by 24. So even the 24x36 is like, I have had occasion to cut. Now, I built the Colossus for a specific reason, and it's a couple things about the Gatton CNC. By the way, for those of you who haven't seen my video on my vertical CNC table, it's a Gatton CNC that I built. I call it Colossus just because of the size. What I did was, mine is actually 80 inches wide. And I am using a 6-foot lead screw. I had to build a little extension box. And the only reason for that is because since it's a vertical and a horizontal unit, I had to mount the rails to a couple studs on the wall. And so I was dependent on the distance of the studs. As far as depth is concerned, it would be ridiculous to use the full lead screw. First of all, I wouldn't be able to reach both sides. I can barely reach 3 feet. So I'd have to have it open on all 4 areas, on all 4 sides. But they don't make 6-foot by 6-foot boards. I don't use 5x5 boards. The biggest thing and the main reason I made it the way I made it is so I can cut 2 feet off of a 4x6. I mean, a 4x8, and use a 4x6. I've got the full 72-inch space, and what I did was, mine is actually the footprint is 64 inches. You take off 14 inches off the back, and you've got a working space of 50 inches. And the reason I did that is because I made mine exact. I have 2 inches in the front for a guide, a rail, something to set it on. Because when my machine goes vertical, I could just lay the board right on there, And that's another convenient feature of mine is I don't have to worry about reaching over and all around the machine. I can't be setting stuff on top of it, but everything's accessible from the front. So it's a unique situation. But for my first machine, if this was my first machine, I'm with everybody else in the chat. I wouldn't go bigger than a 48 by 48 work area.
Yeah, I think that's probably the absolute max that anybody really should be building. You mentioned something that like you saw me jot down some notes so I wouldn't forget, but you made me think of some stuff. Javi, you're a short guy. I'm a short guy. Mike, I don't think you're real tall. I don't know how tall you are, but I don't think you're real tall. That's another thing too, is when you build one of these big machines, if you're a short guy, you can't reach everything. So then that also means you not only have the footprint of your machine, but now you need to keep, 2 to 3
around it.
4 feet around all sides. So you might as well say you're adding that to the footprint because, you got to be able to get around to the different things. So that's another thing. Another thing I've seen too, and a lot of these guys probably wouldn't want to admit it, but I've seen their pictures. I know when you build a really big table like that and you end up where you're only using that lower left-hand corner, or maybe you're even using the whole front, but it's only the first, 18 inches or so. You know how us guys are. When there's a flat surface laying around, it'll tend to be, get stuff set on it. And the next thing you know,
that doesn't.
I wasn't talking about you, Mike, but you brought it up.
Well, it's yeah.
I mean,
it's funny because in one of your past shows, Richard Moeller, who has a 48 by he's got a full 4x8 using chain drive. He himself said on your show that he only uses a small portion of it, and the rest of it he's got his tools set on it, his planer and everything.
Either a workbench or just a junk pile, one of the two. And again, you have that big table, and it's like, well, I need to cut something, so let me just shove this stuff back, because I'm only going to use, and that's what ends up happening. So again, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do because you can, I don't care what you build, really.
I just look, Dave. Now that you mentioned that, I just finished picking up my room a little bit, and I don't know if you can notice inside the CNC. That's the workspace.
Yeah,
I got to get all that stuff out of there by tomorrow to do my next project.
Yeah, I have out in my garage, I have the Gatton CNC, and then I also have a 36 by 24 Garage Works that I use. And since I bought that, or got that kiosk, and I bought another UC100, I can actually run both of those machines at the same time. However, it's very, very, very rare that I run them both at the same time, because usually when I get ready to run one, I have to take whatever's stacked on top of it, and guess what? There's another flat surface over here where the other one was, so I pile it up over there. So that's usually what happens. The one is acting as a table with wood storage or blanks or whatever it is I've got, and then the other one will run. But that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get folks to maybe slow down a little bit and think. And another thing I want to mention too is if you build a smaller machine and then you start, but say you're just a hobbyist or whatever, and you start out making stuff, and the next thing you know, the neighbors or somebody sees something you make, and next thing you know, you got a little business going and you're making stuff. Well, instead of getting a bigger machine, and here's another mistake I think a lot of people make. They think, well, I need a table twice this big. That way I can increase production.
Yeah.
No, a second machine will increase production.
Yep.
A bigger table, that thing's still cutting one at a time. So you're not really increasing anything other than lost shop space. So I would much rather have two smaller machines cranking out stuff at the same time than I would one big machine. So that's something to think about. Larry Duggar said,
that's very true. You got me thinking about good old Patrick. You got me thinking about the same thing with the 3D printers. I mean, there's some people out there. Oh, well, I'm going to get a nice big area. I'm making a bunch of these little things, and I well, if you get 5 printers, you can make them at 5 times the size. People don't think about that with a 3D printer. I mean, it's obvious to them they need more 3D printers because of how incredibly slow they print. But it's the same thing with the CNC.
Yeah.
If you're doing mass production,
I tell my wife I need to buy more stuff because I have to make a second CNC.
That's right.
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. I was watching earlier as we were talking about sizes, people were running through the chat there, posting the size of their machine and stuff. And I did see some that were very reasonable, 48 by 40 and stuff like that. But, not that you'll listen to me, but if I had to recommend a size on the Gatton CNC, I don't think there's anything at all modifying it, making it wider, because as you know, the plans call for it to use a half sheet of plywood as a table, which means you're going to lose a little bit on the sides. So I think you cut, like, I don't even know what it is, 43, 44, something like that, if you made it to exactly to the plans. So I think it's probably a good idea, if you want, make it a little wider to 54 or something, so that you can cut
have the workspace be 48. Yeah,
you can lay up something 48 inches long on there. But as far as going deep, I just don't see people cutting that much big stuff. I really don't. And they're like, well, I may do it one day. Well, yeah, but that thing takes up room all year long. And, once in a blue moon, you throw something up there that's that big. It's just,
Jim Sinicola brought up a good point. On the bigger machines, won't the screws whip more? If I'm going past 300 inches per minute, which is well past anything I would recommend cutting at, and I'm on the ends, my machine, my full lead screw will whip a little bit. People say, "Oh no, it's that's because it's not aligned perfectly." No, I'm sorry. All you need is the slightest bit of vibration and just the right harmonic, and it will whip. So
yeah, and the problem is when you start making them long, leaving them 6 foot or even 5 foot, when the gantry or the Z box is all the way over to one side or the other, there's no support in the middle. And you could just take it out of the tube when you order it and hold it end to end, and it'll sag. It's only ½ inch. It's not that, it's not big. Now you take a 2 foot piece, yeah, it's pretty stiff, but the longer you get, the more it's going to do that. So that's the other thing I see. I see people building these big machines.
Yeah.
And then they'll post a question on there. Well, my thing is wobbling. Why is it doing that? Well,
and then
wobble a little. Mine wobble a little. And I'm going to tell you something else too while we're talking about this. Everybody probably orders those lead screws from McMaster. There might be some other people that order them somewhere else, but I'm guessing most people order them from McMaster Car. But you get those things out of the package, you need to find a flat, something is flat, workbench, or maybe you've already got your table built or whatever, and lay them on there and roll them around. you probably, especially after UPS gets done with them, you're probably not going to have one that's exactly perfect. You know, if they've got the least little bit of bend or something in them. I mean, I had some the other day that the dumb idiot UPS guy comes carrying the thing over his shoulder, and I could see that it was ripped and bent at about a 30-degree angle.
Yeah, Mark. I remember when Mark got his 3 lead screws for his most recent build. One of them came bent.
Yeah, I mean, I just got 3 of them because I ordered 3 of them for a Garage Works, and as soon as the guy got out of the truck with them, I'm like, man, these aren't any good. And he's like, ooh, good.
And then the next thing you'll hear is when they go building them that big is well, why don't we get a thicker lead screw, or why don't we go rack and pinion? And I go, well, that defeats the whole purpose of a economical, low-priced hobby CNC. If you're going that route, you might as well just invest in a big unit.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, I had to call, immediately open them up, set them on my table, rolled them. And I mean, they were like, when you rolled them, the other end would stick up like 4 inches off the table. That's how bad they were bent.
Wow.
So I had to call McMaster-Carr, and the lady I talked to was real nice. She said, yeah, we'll send you some more out. In fact, they came the very next day, and didn't even charge me for them. And I said, what do you want? Because normally I've got them bent before, and I've always, you have to get a return authorization number and all that. And she goes, nah, we're not even going to bother with that. You order all this stuff all the time. Just keep them. But they weren't any good, or at least the last 2 foot wasn't any good because it was bent big time on all 3 of them. So anyway, that's something else you got to watch out for, is check them. And if you do have some that got some, like I said, it's hard to get one that's perfect, but use your head if you see one that you're rolling around on the table and you go, well, it looks like the last 2 foot of that, is sticking the bend in there about 2. That then you should cut that 2 foot off and use that for your Z, and use the other one. You know what I mean? Use your head when you're planning out where you're going to use them, which ones are going to wobble the worst, and where you don't want them. Mark Lindsay says, so Dave, does that mean you'll have a ton of 15-inch long lead screws for sale now? I do. I have a ton of drop out there. I give it away every time somebody comes to visit. If anybody asks me about it, I say, here, have a handful. And
And where did I put that handful?
But I know I gave you a bunch of them. I give several people some, but yeah, I always have. I have a bunch of them out there that's I want to say 19 or 20 inches long. So if anybody needs any 5-star lead screw, let me know. Ship mine is heavy.
Really
I don't know what you call a heavy tube. They come in that cardboard tube, and trust me, UPS can bend it.
Oh yeah.
I think the problem is, what they should be doing, and the UPS drivers that I've seen, the smart ones, they have the stuff laying. If it's in a tube, they have it laying on the floor in the truck. But some of these guys pick it up and try to stand it up, and they'll go to stick it in the corner. If it don't fit, they just keep shoving.
Yeah.
And if you order, what I used to do is I used to order like 9 of them at a time, because McMaster-Carr would take them and take stretch wrap and band them together. So now you've got 9 that's like a big solid thing, and it was harder for UPS to bend them. If you just order 3 or 4 at a time, they'll bend them trying to.
Don't say that. They'll take it as a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some of them drivers probably could bend them. As you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of UPS. And that's why when you get stuff from me, like a Garage Works, that's why it's in those heavy crates, because I build the stuff to make it there without damage. So far, I've managed to do every one that way. All right. So, well,
So what, Dave, you're saying when I have mine sitting in the rest, I usually have it in the middle, and usually the Z's on this side a little bit more. I usually have it sitting in the middle of the gantry and then the middle of the table.
Yeah,
Just
that's
when
where
I'm done, I shut it off.
that's the best place to put it.
and I've seen people that do that. And that's probably a good idea to give it support in the middle. That way it won't sag while it's sitting there. However, I'm one of those guys that when my machine finishes, before I shut it off, just so I can get it out of the way while I'm unclamping stuff, I hit reference all home. And as you know, mine goes to the back and to the right. That's where my home is, on that back right corner. And I always leave it there. Well, my X is sagged a little from setting, and I'm sure the Y has too. But I mean, it's not enough to affect the way it runs or anything. And also, I'm usually not running it fast enough for it to matter. For that kind of stuff, I hear the stories about whip all the time, and I'm like, wow, you must be really flying, because I have mine set for my maximum speed on my X and Y set at 200, which means if it's running a diagonal traverse, it'll be 236 inches a minute, which is plenty fast for what I'm doing, and it doesn't get any whip. It's more of a wobble, but it's not a whip. You'll know a whip when you get it. But,
yeah, absolutely.
all right, so I see some comments. Murray Cohen says his X has sagged too. I'm assuming he's talking about lead screws. Let's see. Would you rather have your X sag or mouth off? I'm not sure I understand that comment.
I think they're talking about ex-wives.
Oh, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Anybody got any other questions or comments or something they want us to talk about while we're out there? What time is it here? About 8:40. Yeah, like I said, I hope I'm not getting on anybody's nerve about the building size, but
anybody that's built a big one either regrets it, and then they could always choose to build it smaller, or they're happy with it because that's the size that they wanted. So, I mean, I don't see any issue with it. It's good advice to build it small, like you said. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from, if they need something in the future bigger, than to build it, and you'll be much happier that you have a smaller footprint.
I'd be willing to bet that there's people, and you guys in the comments can let me know if you're one of these people. I'd be willing to bet that there's people that will take the Gatton CNC plans and go, well, I'm not going to make it that much deeper, but I am going to make it wider so that so you can throw a 48-inch piece up there. I'll bet you there's a lot of people that have done that and then have never cut anything 48 inches.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, the Dave Mack just asked if it's worth getting aluminum angle aluminum at a big box store, or better to order online. Ooh, any one of us could answer that question. And Patrick actually surprised me when he bought the angle for his, because I priced the big box stores, and it was over double what I would get at a local aluminum place, a metal shop that sells aluminum angle. Mine for well, imagine, if you will, it's a 7 foot by 6 foot, so 4 6-foot pieces, 4 7-foot pieces, and 4 2-foot pieces, or 20-inch two 2-foot pieces. That all came out to $62 for me. Patrick got a very similar setup, almost the same thing, and he only paid $10 or $15 more. And that was because he ordered online. Patrick, what was the place he ordered from? It's an online. It's a metal online place. It's a. Where did you get yours, Mike?
I got mine from McMaster.
Okay, and they've got better prices than the big box.
The key thing is you got to get it from either a metal place or McMaster, because somebody who handles a lot of that stuff. Because if you go to the hardware, like you could go to Ace Hardware and get it, it's going to cost you probably twice as much as what a stick at McMaster would, and you probably won't be able to get it as long.
Yeah, and the big box. I mean, I know my Home Depot was. I mean, I like the easy way out, and driving over is the easy way out. Well, Patrick would argue and say that online is the easy way, but Online Metals, that's the place. I went over to my Home Depot. They only had 1/16 by 1/16. They didn't have 1/8 by 1/8, 1/8 inch, 3/4 by 3/4.
Yeah.
So they didn't even have the size.
You know, I know a lot of people fuss about McMaster, and when they go through my, I have my stuff sitting right here, and I haven't even looked at it. You know, when they go through the list and they start seeing the McMaster links, and then they go check, and they're like, oh man, and the shipping and all that stuff. But I tell you, the one thing I like about McMaster is it don't matter what the heck it is, they've got it, and you're never going to order it and have them say, we're out of stock on that. If they don't have it at this warehouse, they got it a half a dozen other ones, and they're never out of anything. And yeah, the shipping's a little pricey. You're only buying this stuff one time. Come on. So it will save you. You know, I don't know what you guys pay for gas, but you hop into gas, and Michael can probably vouch for this. You know, how many trips did you make to the local big box store or the hardware store or stuff like that?
Yeah,
that's what I like. You just get on there and you order everything up, and it'll all come. Like I said, there's never anything that's going to be back ordered. It may be a little price. You know, if you really shopped around, you might could find it cheaper here or there, but it's not worth the time, man. My time's worth more than what it takes to do that stuff. Maybe yours isn't, but mine is.
Yeah, that's the other thing that you make a great point, and that's, I think about that all the time. Is there is something to be said for spending 3 days trying to save $5, and how much is that time worth to you? Sometimes it's just a matter of convenience. Order it all in, like for Mike, order it all from McMaster's in one place. Maybe he spent $25 more. Was it worth it? Absolutely.
Yeah, I stupidly
go through that hassle.
I ordered the lead screws, then I ordered the angle. I should just order it all at once.
Yeah, they would have put it in the same tube and made it hard to bend. Yeah, it's all right. So what do we got over there? Any other? Oh, well, I guess we need to do some roll call over there, Javi. You want to do that?
Let me go ahead and yank these out. Okay, here we go. We got Ankle Biter Woodworks, Dave Mack, David Mitchell, Frankie, CNC, Jerry Brown, Mac Tech, Mark Lindsay, Michael Chipser, Murray Cohen, Patrick from Patrick's Workshop, Rick Palikage or Palikage. That's a tough one for me. Rob Schuster, Wood Bucket. I think that's another Dave. Todd from Todd HCNC and
Gary.
Tommy Gunn. I'm sorry?
Gary something, I think, is the Wood
Gary,
Bucket.
that's right. Yeah. And Brent Poland's out there. Ron Cleveland. I don't know if I mentioned them. David Vosliff. Troy Pritchard. We have a whole slew of people watching.
Appreciate it. All right, we got a few minutes left before we cut out of here. Anybody got any other questions about the CNC challenge or about the Gatton CNC, GarageWorks CNC, whatever you want to talk about?
Rick Palicki. Thank you, Rick. There you go. Let's see. Christmas challenge. Looking forward to that.
Since you use yours a lot more than I use mine, how often do you go around making sure everything's tight? Not at all.
I'm the world's worst.
Okay.
But you know what? It's because one of the reasons why I don't check is because my stuff don't come loose. I swear, and I'm not knocking anybody. You know, I'm not trying to be condescending or anything, but it amazes me that I see these folks all the time post a thing and saying they're losing steps or what's it doing, and they check their couplers and they're not tight. They're not getting them tight enough to start with because I never check mine.
Yeah, try the short answer, Mike, is in the beginning, and then try a week later just to double check all the stuff. Because, I know for me, after a good week of breaking in the aluminum, I had to, naturally it wears to a point, and then it will stop wearing the that aluminum angle, and so you do want to be tightening them up and tweaking it, if you will. But after that, I haven't used the other one that much, but
I thought I tightened up everything, but when I was cutting last week, all of a sudden I saw a screw. I mean, not a screw. I saw a nut on the thing, and I'm like, where the hell? It was off the Z box. It was the middle Z box on the right side.
Did you use nylon screws or?
No. I used the regular nuts.
You got washers on them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I cleaned it up, and it hasn't moved again. So maybe I skipped that one. That's kind of weird.
It happens.
It was just funny because I was just like, maybe I should check these every once in a while since it's running. I don't know.
Yeah, let's answer a question here. Greg Euler, I hope I'm saying his last name right, says, so if I understand correctly, a 5x5 would be the correct size to cut a 48 by 48. Actually, you don't need to have a 60-inch wide table to cut a 48. That's giving you 6 inches to clamp. You may not need that much. I think the one that I built that I gave to my buddy Jim, I believe I'd have to go back and look. It was, I think, 52 inches.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly. It is on the Z side. The tabletop has to be 62 inches. On the Y side, it has to be 52 5/8. That will give you an exact cutting, within an eighth of an inch, a cutting of 48 by 48, because you got to take off 14 inches off the back. So 62 minus 14 is your 48, and it's 4 5/8 inches on the sides. So and again, this is your mileage may vary, as Mark is fond of saying. So best thing to do is go a little bit oversized, but just add up all the numbers.
Yeah, Michael Chipser said his is 60 by 60, and his cutting area is about 52 by 52.
Wow, he only lost 8 inches on one side.
Well, yeah, that can't be right, because
you're
gonna lose about 13 and a half inches.
Yeah.
I always tell people to round up and say
14. Yeah, I always put the 14. Yeah.
So if you want to cut 48, you would need 14 inches more, which would be 62.
62, yeah.
And
now you could stick it out the front if you want.
Yeah, because it will hang off the front a little bit if you want to do that.
That is always an option. Will a 5x5 do for a table? Yes, Murray. It's a little overkill on the side, because 5 foot wide is going to give you 56 inches of width, and here's what I like to, exactly what Dave was saying earlier. I'm not that tall of a guy. I can lean over 2 feet, but unless my table's down 30 inches, and I like it to be a comfortable 42 inches, unless my table's at 30 inches, I can't lean past 2.5 feet at the most. So 5x5 would, you wouldn't be able to lean to the middle of the board.
Sterling Davis says, "Hope I am welcome here. I got blocked from another show. We tolerate scroll saw guys, Sterling. You know, we're a tolerant bunch over here on the CNC with Dave show."
Yes, yes. We're
You're-
very unlike the
Really knows I'm kidding. He's always welcome.
unlike the scroll saw crowd. We are very tolerant of other subspecies.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a hybrid.
Yeah, yeah. He hasn't changed. He hasn't fully changed his name
We went
to
from
CNC Mike yet.
Mike to scroller Mike to CNC Mike. So, Jim Sincola says, "What clamping would you use for the 48 by 48 bed?" You know, we did a show not long ago talking about clamping methods and stuff. I think probably the big thing is the T track.
Yeah.
That way you can use the MDF strips as the spoil board, stuff like that. I know I'm really enjoying mine since I finally bought the T track and the MDF and redid mine on my Gatton. And because I have here recently been cutting other things, I know normally most of the time I'm cutting the Gatton CNC kits and the hold downs are always in the same places, but now I have been cutting some other stuff and I'm really enjoying the T-track and glad that I put it 4 inches on center and not any farther away than that.
That's the next thing I'm getting. Forget about these holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a cheap way to get started, and you know, and I did that on my Gatton for a long time, and I still have one of my garage works, the 36 by 24 that I mentioned I have in my garage. It still has that table with the T slots underneath, and it works fine. But you know, my problem was because I cut Gatton CNC kit blanks all the time. I was using the same holes and I'd wear those things out because I had stainless bolts and it would wear out the threaded nuts.
Yeah. Philip Barnes said exactly what I said earlier. It's he's in the same boat I am. The 24 by 36 machine, and I only remember ever twice cutting a full 24 by 36. And it's a pain because you got to damage it somehow to clamp it but that was once, twice maybe. Everything else is small little pieces.
Yeah, you know, there's of the garage work CNC, there's the big one, the 48 by 48. There's the 36 by 24, and then of course I used to sell the 24 by 18, which I still think that's a good size for a lot of people, but I just never sold very many of them, so I kind of discontinued that or took it off the website. I'd probably still have enough parts out there to make one or two if somebody really wanted one. Yeah. But my favorite of the three is the middle size one, the 36 by 24. It's a good size. The footprint's not super big, and it just works for most, most projects, and it's just a good size. Now the big one that I have out in my shop, it's kind of way bigger than I need. I'm just using the laser on it. Most of the things I do are, the small stuff. And I would say, again, the footprint on that thing is right at 5 by 5, by the time you count the motors that stick out the back and stuff like that. And I know of one guy, Mr. Michael Mertzke, who has his in his shop, and he's got it kind of tucked in a corner, but he does have it, or at least I'm pretty sure I'm sure he has his on casters so he can move it out if need be. But one reason why that works well for Michael Mertzke, and if y'all have ever met Michael Mertzke, he's about 7'9" tall, so he can reach everything. Now I can't do that because I'm a little shy of 7'9".
Yeah.
And
they're talking there about using brad nails. I was going to mention the other hold down method, which I mentioned on the show, which is Raptor and Senko both make a special gun, 15 gauge gun that uses composite nails. They're plastic nails. They're the color of light wood, and you won't have a problem with them. They have double the tensile strength and half the shear strength. So all you take is a little when you have it pinned down and you just want to and you finish your piece, take a little mallet, a little rubber mallet, whack, and it breaks. It pops right off. Very convenient hold down method, but it can get very expensive because because those nails are not cheap. $50 for 2,000 nails.
Yeah, I see Frankie CNC in woodworking says I've been using double-sided tape and brad nails, and the price is adding up. I could have had a good vacuum table by now. Yeah, that's I know a lot of people are real keen on the double side or not the double-sided tape, but the tape and the
CA
glue and all that kind of stuff. And I get it; it works great.
That gets to be pretty penny. Yeah,
I just think about what's wrong with having a clamping system that you buy at one time, or in the fact with the wooden clamps that I showed the other week, you make them out of scrap wood and you never buy another clamp.
Yeah,
it's free from now on. So
and that brings something to mind. One of these methods won't work for every job. I will guarantee you there is not one single method that will work for every job. The brad nails, you're damaging the piece. The thin, try putting thin stuff without the CA glue. The clamps, I mean, they work great unless you got something that's very complicated and you're gonna have to spend double the time figuring out the path so you don't have this happen to you and for your hold downs. So the point is multiple methods work best. That CA glue method is, I don't use it for anything, but I couldn't think of anything else that worked better when I was making my drag chain from 1/4 inch stock, because there were a lot of small pieces. Can't use a vacuum table. Can't use anything you use. The pieces would just fly off. I coated the whole thing with CA glue and it worked like a charm.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. But I don't think I would ever want to use it for everything. Like
right.
People
definitely not.
I mean, yeah, it'll hold, but after a while, you're paying for that CA glue and the tape and all that. Whereas with the old timey clamps, you just once you got them, that's it. You don't need to make them anymore. And as Mac Tech 007 says, one hold down method won't work for all applications. That's exactly right. You got to get creative sometimes.
That's what I said. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I have used regular Bessie clamps, yep. Stick it through the back of the table. And if I covering up all my stuff, I just, whatever you do to hold it, that's all that matters. It doesn't move while you're cutting.
Yeah. I made a small, one time I was, my daughter wanted this logo. It was a small logo and I had a big piece of, I think it was 1/8 inch thick cork. So you try to cut 8 inch thick cork. Well, what hold down method are you possibly gonna? Well, I use my hands. not the safest thing in the world, but I knew exactly where it was going, and sure enough, a lot of little small passes. I knew it was a small area. I was holding it on the corners, but if I were to use a hold down method, it clamps it down and then brings it up. Sometimes you just got to pull and stretch it. But obviously you could have probably stuck it between two boards and done it that way as well. But I'm a cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do that real thin, flimsy stuff.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, I think we're getting at the top of the hour here. Unless anybody's got any other questions, if you got one, put it in there now. Jay Brown messaged me a while ago and said he couldn't join us on the panel because his CNC's running. So that's good. And since you're over there in the chat, Jerry, what are you running? You don't have to tell us if it's, you know.
And why don't you build a large enclosure?
But how big is the part you're running right now? I saw I don't know if y'all saw it, but in the I think he posted it in the Garage Work CNC group. Juan posted a picture of those Scrabble things he was making. You see the Scrabble tiles he was making? Those are really cool looking. And I noticed he had like a fixture where he milled a pocket and then he set had all the blanks cut,
nice.
setting them down in there. That's what we were just talking about.
He's doing more stuff for the Christmas show.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we're going to get out of here. I don't see any other questions. Again, please think about getting out there in your shop and making a Christmas themed project and record it with a video. Send me the link, and you'll be entered in the 3rd annual Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, if you scroll down to the bottom of the show stuff there, hit the show more and go down, there are links to the 2016 and 2017 challenges, so you can kind of get an idea if you're looking for something.
Oh yeah, Steve asked this question a little earlier today. Steve Hinton, he asked about a 3D touch probe. As far as which one is the best, Steve, I've known a couple people who use in fact, on one of my shows, I showed how to put together your own touch probe. They sell them really cheap on eBay, so it's almost not worth going through the trouble of building it yourself. There is a program, I forgot the name of it, but it was on one of my past CNC with Javi episodes, a touch probe show that will actually, it's a macro in CNC which will go through the whole thing and create a mesh map. You still have to it gets into some complicated stuff, but basically if you've ever worked with 3D and you know how to convert a mesh map into a 3D design, then have at it. If not, well, do your research.
Yeah, I get asked that every once in a while, and I don't have any idea because I don't have a need for one, so I don't use one. And it's probably for my feeble little.
I learned how to do it because I was curious, and after I did it maybe twice, I've never done it since. Story of my life.
All right, I will say though, I don't know if did I mention that I bought Pick Laser software?
You did not.
I didn't know if I'd mentioned that on the show or not. I told somebody. Well, maybe I probably told you in a private hangout. That's what it was. But yeah, I purchased the Pick Laser software for those of you who have a laser on your machine or plan on getting one. And I'm kind of still learning a lot about it. So far, I'm not terribly impressed, but for the price, because I think it was like $50, $40, something like that. It it wasn't expensive at all, but I'm still playing around with it, and I'll hopefully have some samples to show here on the show sometime later on. And anyway, I guess that's it. We're going to wrap this one up. Alabama, in case anybody wants to know, I know nobody does, but Alabama made it through another close game. They only won 24-0 this time. So roll tide.
Ankle Biter's asking if it matters the orientation of the flat spot on the motor shaft in the coupler.
No, because the coupler doesn't care where that flat spot is.
Right.
It's just gripping onto the whole shaft. the coupler would work even if that flat spot wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But just make sure you get them tight. That's the main thing. Like I said, I see people still, don't get them tight. That's right, Sterling. Roll Tide, baby.
He gets to stay another week.
Yeah. You can come back next week now, Sterling. Don't worry about that other show. You can come here, buddy. Anyway, we're gonna sign out here. I appreciate y'all watching. We had over 80 folks watching at one time, I think, tonight. So thank you so much for tuning in, spending a little time on your Saturday night with me. Thank you, Javi, for joining me again tonight.
Anytime, Dave.
That's Mr. Murray. And,
yes, anytime.
Michael Chipser and Jerry Brown and anybody else out there that wants to come join us some night, just let me know. Happy to send a link to you. I might even send one to Sterling sometime. That'd brighten up the show, wouldn't it? And one of them scroll saw guys on here.
He's another 7 foot something guy too.
Yeah, he's another one of those big guys.
Are we talking about Sterling?
Yeah. He's a
Not too many tall people. Yeah, let's see. Sterling, Mike Fulton, and Mike Mertzke. Let's see. Jim Bashirs.
Jim Bashir's the big guy. I think Mertzke's got them all beat though.
Oh yeah, easily.
I don't know exactly how tall he is, but he is.
I want to say he said 6'5" one time. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, he's 7'6". I mean, from my
he
angle.
might as well be because
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. You won't find a better guy than Michael Mertzke. For sure.
Steve Hinton's a tall one too. He's 6'3" there.
6'3", yeah. All right. Well, thank you all, folks. We're going to get out of here. Again, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there, and all the military folks. Like I said, past, present, and future. We appreciate what you do. And I guess that's going to do it. Everybody have a great weekend. Please leave a thumbs up on the way out if you would, or a thumbs down, whichever. Doesn't matter. I'll end up with about 9 thumbs down anyway before it's over with. So, everybody, we'll see y'all later. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.